In life, we are constantly surrounded by circumstances and people that seem to pull our energy in every direction. We wake up to notifications, external expectations, responsibilities, and opinions. In the chaos of it all, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we need to fix everything around us, control outcomes, and shape the behavior of others to feel at peace. But the truth is, most of what we try to control is actually beyond our reach. The sooner we realize this, the more we free ourselves from frustration, disappointment, and burnout. You cannot control how someone speaks to you, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control the economy, your past, or the decisions others make, but you can control your attitude, your effort, and your mindset. The power lies not in controlling the external world. It lies in mastering your internal world. This shift in focus, from the outer to the inner, is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. It takes away the pressure of perfection and replaces it with peace. Learning to know what you can control begins with honest self-awareness. Ask yourself, where is my energy going? Am I stressing about someone else's actions? Am I dwelling on what might happen instead of what I can do right now? When you become mindful of your thoughts and reactions, you start to notice how much energy you've been giving away to things that don't serve you. This awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Control isn't about rigidity or dominance. It's about responsibility. Taking control of your life starts with taking responsibility for your choices, your reactions, and your growth. When someone disrespects you, you have no control over their words or behavior. But you do have the power to decide whether to stay in that environment, how to speak up for yourself, and how to carry yourself forward. That's real power, that's control. When you try to control everything, you're essentially trying to protect yourself from discomfort, uncertainty, or fear. But ironically, this desperate need to control often leads to more stress, not less. It leads to anxiety, micromanagement, and tension in relationships. The antidote is trust in yourself, and trust in the process. When you focus on your own behavior, your own mindset, and your own values, you begin to build a life rooted in inner stability, not outer chaos. We live in a world where change is constant. Plans fall through, people change, situations evolve. That's inevitable. But your inner world, your mindset, your perspective, your focus, can be your anchor. Instead of reacting to every wave, you can learn to ride them. Instead of being thrown off course by every challenge, you can meet those challenges with resilience and clarity. That clarity comes when you draw a line between what is yours to carry and what is not. Trying to control other people is one of the fastest ways to drain your emotional energy. You may want someone to treat you better, to see your worth, or to change their behavior. But the truth is, you can't make someone grow if they're not ready. You can't force someone to love you the way you want. You can't mold people into who you think they should be. And that's okay. Letting go of that illusion doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to stop fighting battles that aren't yours. Instead of focusing on controlling others, focus on building yourself. Focus on your habits, your thoughts, your emotional responses. You have the power to choose how you show up every single day. You have the power to speak kindly to yourself, to challenge your negative thoughts, to build new routines, and to pursue what brings you joy. That's where your real influence lies, not in trying to shape the world around you, but in shaping the world within you. This perspective shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. You'll still get frustrated. You'll still want things to go a certain way. That's human. But the difference is you'll learn to pause and ask, is this something I can control? And if the answer is no, you'll learn to let it go, or at least not let it consume you. That's how you preserve your energy. That's how you protect your peace. When you live in alignment with what you can control, you start to feel more empowered. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You stop waiting for other people to change so you can be happy. You realize that happiness is an inside job built not on perfect conditions, but on a resilient mindset. You recognize that while you can't control every situation, you can always choose your perspective. And that choice, repeated every day, reshapes your life. So much freedom comes from letting go of what you can't change, letting go of trying to be everything for everyone, letting go of the pressure to fix what was never yours to fix. Instead, turn that energy inward. Focus on building a life that reflects your values, your peace, and your growth. Channel your energy into the things that are within your reach, your goals, your healing, your passion, your mindset. In doing so, you become the kind of person who inspires change, not by force, but by example. You begin to live with clarity and intention. And that, more than anything, is what gives you true control. Not over the world, but over how you move through it. There comes a time in everyone's life when they realize that not everything deserves their time, energy, or attention. That moment often arrives after feeling stretched too thin, taken for granted, or emotionally drained. And while the solution may seem simple, just set boundaries, the act of doing so often feels anything but easy. For many, the word boundary sounds harsh or selfish, especially if you're someone who's used to putting others first. But boundaries are not walls. They are bridges, healthy lines that protect your peace, honor your needs, and allow genuine connection to flourish. And learning to set them without guilt is one of the most profound acts of self-respect. Guilt is one of the biggest obstacles to boundary setting. You say no to an invitation and instantly feel like you've let someone down. You ask for space and feel like you're being distant. You express your needs and feel like you're being too demanding. But guilt is not always a sign that you've done something wrong. Often, it's just an emotional response shaped by old conditioning beliefs that tell you your worth is tied to how much you do for others, how agreeable you are, or how little space you take up. It's time to challenge those beliefs. The truth is, you do not owe anyone your time, energy, or emotional availability just because they ask for it. You are allowed to prioritize your well-being. You are allowed to say no without explaining yourself. You are allowed to need rest, solitude, or clarity before committing to something. Setting boundaries doesn't make you less kind or less loving. It makes you more intentional with your kindness, more genuine in your connections, and more aligned with your values. People often fear that setting boundaries will make them lose relationships. But here's something to remember. Any relationship that is damaged by a healthy boundary was built on conditions that served others, not necessarily you. True relationships, whether they're friendships, partnerships, or family bonds, can withstand boundaries. In fact, they are strengthened by them. Boundaries communicate honesty. They say, this is who I am, this is what I need, and this is how I show up best. People who truly care about you will appreciate that, and those who don't, maybe they were benefiting more from your lack of boundaries than your presence. Learning to set boundaries also means getting clear on what you actually need. It requires tuning into your discomfort and paying attention to what drains you. Does your heart race every time your phone rings because you feel obligated to always be available? Do you say yes to things you don't want to do because you're afraid of disappointing someone? Do you overextend yourself only to feel resentment afterward? These are signs. They are not telling you that something's wrong with you. They are telling you that something needs to change. Start small. It doesn't have to be a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes setting a boundary is as simple as not answering a text right away, ending a conversation when it turns negative, or choosing not to explain every decision you make. Other times, it's about having an honest conversation where you express what you need: more space, more respect, more support. And when you do it with clarity and calm. You don't have to defend your boundaries like they're a courtroom argument. You just have to stand in them like they are your truth, because they are. Remember, guilt often shows up after you set a boundary, especially if you're not used to putting yourself first. That guilt is the echo of an old pattern, not a reflection of wrongdoing. Let it come, sit with it, but don't let it steer your actions. Over time, the more you honor your boundaries, the less guilt you'll feel. What once felt uncomfortable will begin to feel like self-respect. What once felt like conflict will begin to feel like clarity. There will be times when people push back. They may be confused, frustrated, or even upset, and that's okay. You are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are only responsible for communicating them with honesty and holding them with consistency. People who are used to you always saying yes might resist when you start saying no. That's a natural part of the shift. But stay the course. The discomfort of setting boundaries is temporary. The damage of not having them is long-term. Setting boundaries is not just about protecting your energy. It's about directing it. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you make space for something that fulfills you. You reclaim your time, your peace, your focus. You begin to live a life that is yours, not one shaped by guilt, pressure, or obligation, but one shaped by choice. Over time, boundaries become second nature. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You stop sacrificing your mental health for the sake of keeping the peace. And most importantly, you start showing up for yourself with the same care and commitment you've always shown to others. So let go of the guilt. Let go of the idea that putting yourself first is wrong. It's not. In fact, it's necessary. Because when you protect your energy, you have more of it to give. When you honor your needs, you become more grounded and authentic. And when you set boundaries without guilt, you teach others how to respect you not just by what you say, but by what you no longer tolerate. Your time, energy, and emotional space are sacred. Treat them that way. Setting boundaries is not about shutting the world out. It's about choosing the right doors to open and the right paths to walk. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone needs to. What matters most is that you understand why you're doing it, and that you never again feel the need to apologize for protecting your peace. There is no greater return in life than the one that comes from investing in your own growth. Growth is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose. It doesn't rely on luck or circumstances. It depends on your commitment to becoming better, not for others, not for validation, but for yourself. And yet, so many people wait. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect mood. But growth doesn't wait. It's always ready, always available. You just have to decide you're worth the effort. Investing in your growth means becoming an active participant in your life instead of a passive observer. It means choosing learning over comfort, action over excuses, and progress over perfection. This doesn't mean pushing yourself to burnout or constantly needing to improve every aspect of your life all at once. It means creating space for small, intentional steps that move you closer to the person you want to become. Even the smallest efforts compound over time when they are consistent and intentional. Your growth is personal. It's not about comparing your journey to someone else's. What one person needs to work on might not be what you need. For some, growth is learning to speak up. For others, it's learning to listen. For some, it's developing a skill, healing from pain, starting a project, or simply learning how to rest. Whatever it looks like, it starts with the decision to look inward and ask yourself, where can I evolve? That question alone can change the direction of your life. So often we focus on external goals, money, status, recognition, thinking they will make us feel fulfilled. But without internal growth, those things are empty. They may offer temporary satisfaction, but they rarely bring peace. True fulfillment comes from knowing you are expanding as a person, that you are learning, unlearning, challenging yourself, and becoming more aligned with your values. That's the kind of success that can't be measured by titles or likes. It's measured by self-respect and inner clarity. Investing in your growth is not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like sitting with uncomfortable truths, holding yourself accountable, or choosing discipline over distraction. It often requires you to face parts of yourself that you've ignored, your fears, your habits, your insecurities. But that's where the real work happens. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's found in the decisions no one sees, in the effort you make when no one is watching. One of the most powerful investments you can make is in learning. Read books. Listen to ideas that challenge your perspective. Seek out knowledge that stretches your mind. Learning isn't limited to school or formal education. It's a lifelong practice. The world is constantly changing, and the more you know, the more capable you become at adapting, innovating, and leading. But learning isn't just about collecting facts. It's about expanding your awareness and understanding of yourself and others. Another essential area of growth is emotional intelligence. Learning how to manage your emotions, communicate effectively, and build healthy relationships is just as important, if not more, than any technical skill. Emotional growth means becoming more aware of your triggers, understanding your patterns, and learning how to respond rather than react. It means becoming someone who can navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. And then there's the growth that comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. Comfort may feel safe, but it's often where dreams go to die. Growth demands courage. It asks you to try new things, to risk failure, and to believe in possibilities you haven't seen yet. Every time you challenge yourself, whether that's through starting a new habit, having a difficult conversation, or chasing a goal you've been putting off, you expand your capacity. You become more capable, more confident, and more connected to your potential. Part of investing in your growth also means creating healthy environments that support it. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who hold you accountable, and who celebrate your efforts. Distance yourself from those who discourage your growth, who belittle your dreams, or who keep you stuck in patterns you're trying to break. Growth thrives in spaces where it is nurtured, not in environments where it is shamed or stifled. Also, give yourself grace. Growth is not a straight line. There will be moments when you fall back into old habits, when you feel stuck, or when progress feels slow. That's okay. Growth isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about choosing to keep going, even when the results aren't immediate. It's about trusting the process, even when it's hard to see the outcome. Be patient with yourself. You are a work in progress, and that is a beautiful thing. Perhaps one of the most overlooked ways to invest in your growth is to rest. Rest is not laziness. Rest is renewal. You cannot grow from a place of exhaustion. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to pause, breathe, and realign. Growth is not just about doing more. It's about doing what matters most, and that often requires clarity, energy, and reflection. When you truly start to invest in yourself, you begin to notice a shift. You stop looking for external approval because you're building internal validation. You stop fearing failure because you know growth is on the other side of it. You start making choices that align with your future self rather than your past patterns. That's when your life starts to transform, not all at once, but piece by piece, day by day. You are your greatest asset. Your mind, your spirit, your voice, your potential, all of it is worth investing in. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Begin now, start where you are. Use what you have, learn a little more, risk a little more, love yourself a little more. Because every step you take toward your own growth is a step toward a richer, fuller, more meaningful life. Comparison is one of the most subtle yet powerful thieves of joy. It creeps in quietly, often unnoticed, and before you realize it, you're measuring your worth, your progress, and even your happiness against someone else's life. In a world constantly showcasing success, beauty, and achievement on display, especially through social media, it's become easier than ever to compare yourself to others. But the cost of that habit is immense. It drains your confidence, clouds your perspective, and keeps you chasing someone else's version of success rather than building your own. At first, comparison can seem harmless. You scroll through someone's accomplishments, see their picture, perfect moments, or hear about their latest milestones, and you feel a twinge of inadequacy. You start to question your own journey. Am I falling behind? Should I be doing more? Why don't I have what they have? But the truth is, comparison doesn't give you answers. It only creates doubt. It shifts your focus away from what's real and meaningful in your life and places it on illusions, filtered realities, and incomplete narratives. No two lives are the same. You are not meant to walk the same path, meet the same milestones, or live the same story as anyone else. Every person comes from a unique background, carries different experiences, and faces different challenges. When you compare your journey to someone else's, you're measuring with the wrong ruler. You're comparing their highlight reel to your behind the scenes. You're judging your beginning by someone else's middle or their success without seeing their struggle. Letting go of comparison is not about ignoring others' achievements. It's about redefining what success means to you. It's about turning inward and asking, what does fulfillment look like for me? What do I value? What kind of life do I want to build, not for show, but for my own peace and purpose? When you shift your focus from others to yourself, you begin to align your actions with your own goals and values rather than chasing an idea of success that may not even resonate with you. Often, we compare because we're not fully connected to our own growth. When you're deeply engaged in your personal journey, you don't have the time or need to measure it against others. You're too busy learning, evolving, and creating a life that feels right to you. But when you're disconnected, when you're unsure, unfulfilled, or stagnant, it's easy to look outside for reference points. That's when comparison takes root, and instead of motivating you, it paralyzes you. The antidote to comparison is gratitude. When you practice gratitude consistently, you train your mind to focus on what you have rather than what you lack. You begin to see your own blessings, even if they don't look like someone else's. You start to value your own timeline, even if it's slower or less glamorous. Gratitude grounds you. It brings your attention back to your own life, your own efforts, and the quiet progress you're making that no one else may notice, but that matters deeply. Letting go of comparison also requires self-compassion. You are not failing because someone else is succeeding. You are not inadequate because someone else is celebrated. There's room for all of us to grow, to shine, and to live meaningful lives. Someone else's success does not diminish your worth. It simply reflects what is possible. The energy you use to envy others can be redirected into building yourself. Jealousy and admiration are not so different. One drains you, and the other can inspire you. Choose to let what you see in others be a mirror, not of what you lack, but of what you are capable of becoming. Another truth we often forget is that everyone has their own silent battles. Just because someone appears successful, happy, or put together doesn't mean their life is without pain, doubt, or struggle. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone is figuring things out in their own way. When you remind yourself of this, you stop idolizing people and start seeing them as human, just like you. This humanizes success, struggle, and progress, and makes your own journey feel more valid, even when it doesn't look perfect. Sometimes, comparison stems from the belief that we must be the best in order to be enough, but life is not a competition. The goal is not to be better than others, it's to be better than you were yesterday. When you define growth as a personal journey, the pressure to measure up to others fades. Progress becomes about building inner peace, reaching your own goals, and becoming more aligned with who you want to be, not about outperforming anyone else. It's okay to admire others. It's okay to look up to someone and appreciate their journey, but don't let that appreciation turn into self-judgment. Learn from them if you can. Be inspired, but don't forget to look within and honor your own process. Celebrate your small wins. Be proud of your efforts even when they are invisible to the world. You know how hard you've worked. You know how far you've come even if no one else does, and that is enough. Letting go of comparison is an act of self-liberation. It allows you to breathe, to move at your own pace, and to build a life that feels true. It invites you to live from a place of authenticity rather than performance. It gives you the freedom to pursue what matters to you, not because it looks good to others, but because it feels right in your soul. You don't need to match anyone else's life to feel fulfilled. You just need to show up for your own. Every step forward, no matter how small, is still a step. Every lesson learned, every act of courage, every quiet decision to keep going, it all counts. And the more you focus on becoming your best self instead of comparing yourself to others, the more peace, power, and purpose you'll discover within. Peace is one of the most valuable things you can possess. It's not flashy, it doesn't always make noise, and it rarely draws attention. But when you have it, you feel it deeply. It's the stillness inside you when life gets loud. It's the clarity that cuts through chaos. It's the quiet confidence that lets you move through the world without constantly reacting. And yet, peace doesn't just happen. It has to be protected. In a world full of distractions, demands, and drama, protecting your peace becomes both a necessity and an act of strength. To protect your peace, you must first recognize what threatens it. Sometimes it's obvious: a toxic relationship, a draining job, constant negativity. But often it's more subtle. It's the endless scrolling that leaves you feeling empty. It's the people pleasing that wears down your spirit. It's the tendency to overthink, to replay conversations in your head, to carry guilt or anxiety about things you cannot change. Peace slips away quietly, not in a moment of crisis, but in the slow erosion of your boundaries, your energy, and your focus. That's why awareness is key. You have to notice the little things that steal your calm. Protecting your peace starts with making yourself a priority, not in a selfish way, but in a conscious one. It means deciding that your mental clarity, emotional well-being, and spiritual grounding matter enough to guard. It means saying no, not because you don't care, but because you do. About yourself, your time, and what you're building. It's recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, not every invitation is worth accepting, and not every opinion needs a response. The more you learn to disengage from what doesn't serve you, the more room you make for what truly does. There is power in silence. Sometimes the best way to protect your peace is to step away from the noise. Not everything needs your reaction. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every conflict deserves your involvement. Learning to choose your battles wisely is an act of wisdom, not weakness. When you stop trying to control how others think, fix everything, or prove your worth, you reclaim a tremendous amount of energy, and with that energy comes peace. It also means protecting your mind from your own thoughts. Inner peace doesn't only depend on your environment, it depends on how you interpret and respond to it. If your mind is constantly racing, judging, or dwelling on the past, even the calmest surroundings won't bring peace. You have to learn how to quiet your inner critic, how to ground yourself in the present, and how to let go of what you cannot control. Meditation, journaling, breathwork, these are not just wellness trends. They are tools for mental hygiene. They help you return to yourself again and again, especially when life pulls you in 100 directions. Protecting your peace also means being selective about who and what you allow into your life. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people feed on drama, others drain your energy without even realizing it. And while compassion matters, so does discernment. You can be kind and still create distance. You can forgive and still choose to move on. Holding on to people or situations out of obligation, history, or fear only creates more tension inside you. Letting go, though painful, often creates the space your soul has been quietly craving. There's also a discipline to peace. It's not just a feeling, it's a practice. It's found in the habits you keep, the choices you make, and the life you build each day. Are you giving yourself enough rest? Are you feeding your mind with positivity? Are you creating routines that support your goals instead of sabotage them? Peace grows in the presence of consistency. It flourishes when you're not always rushing, overcommitting, or living on autopilot. Slow down, simplify where you can, say no more often. You don't need to do it all to feel worthy. You just need to do what truly matters. One of the most overlooked aspects of protecting your peace is self-forgiveness. You cannot be at peace if you're at war with yourself. The mistakes you've made, the regrets you carry, the moments you wish you could redo, they're part of your journey, not the end of it. You have to be willing to offer yourself the same grace you give others. Holding on to shame or resentment keeps your spirit unsettled. When you forgive yourself, when you stop punishing yourself for being human, peace becomes more than a possibility. It becomes your default. And don't forget joy. Peace is not just the absence of stress or noise. It's also the presence of joy. What makes you smile without effort? What brings you comfort, contentment, or inspiration? Make time for those things. Joy doesn't always shout. It often whispers. A walk in nature, a good book, a meaningful conversation, a creative project, or just a quiet moment with yourself. These are the spaces where peace finds you. Don't wait for joy to arrive in big, dramatic ways. Invite it in daily, even in small doses. These moments accumulate. They build resilience. They fill your life with meaning. Ultimately, protecting your peace is about honoring your inner world. It's about recognizing that your energy is sacred, your emotions are valid, and your well-being is worth protecting. It's not about being detached or uncaring. It's about being rooted. When you are grounded in yourself, when you are aligned with your values and in control of your responses, nothing outside you can shake you for long. Storms may come, but your peace remains. So choose it, again and again, even when the world is chaotic, even when people don't understand, even when it feels easier to give in. Peace is not a destination. It's a choice, a daily, deliberate choice to center yourself, to guard your spirit, and to walk through life with calm strength. And when you protect your peace, you become not only more powerful but more free.